Hey you guys, it's MJ from All to Love. How are you? I'm inspired to just quickly share this idea of how we really embrace our feminine energy. And so often when we see ourselves in a spin, I would call it, when we're a little bit stressed or things are a little bit heightened, and we spin out, we start to spin out, and we're kind of like seeking and doing and having to like make decisions and take action and run around and and why that dominant male or masculine energy within us is part of why, pardon me, I would say we live in such a distorted and kind of violent and messy realities, because there's been a long kind of historical context of denying the feminine energy within us. So that's denying our intuition, denying our connectedness to our own feelings, and allowing, luxuriating, like the womb, like dropping into that womb wisdom, that kind of connectivity and that trust, that deep trust that we really do have within our own bodies. And I'm just finding that with like an increasing sense of self-care, an increasing sense of integrity and wholeness, I'm finding it really quite beautiful and more effortless to just kind of drop into that feminine wisdom. And all that I can say or notice within my own life is how much harmony it brings me and how much love and connectivity it brings me from within myself. And also like a lot of passion and a lot of inspiration. So when I allow that, so it's like noticing in myself or in my patterns when I'm like it's almost like I'm seeking that love outside of myself. And so then I can be like, wait a minute. And then it's like, whoo. So it's like this practice of deepening that like, just the connection to love. But the very critical point that love comes from inside myself, that love and that joy and that sense of satisfaction, that sense of wholeness, that sense of integrity actually comes from within myself. And to remember that men and women alike have both polarities. So us as beings are all whole containers, that we're all totally whole creators, right, of the life that we live. And yet, as human beings, we absolutely desire relationship and connection and love and union, right? We desire that intimacy. It's primordial, I would say. It's like that the idea that babies die if they don't have the human contact. So similarly, as beings, we can become very isolated, alienated, and distorted when we're like, I don't need you. I don't need any help. I don't need a man. I can do it on my own. But I don't want to do it on my own. So there's this balance. And I would say that probably like since puberty, or like since the like hard life of being an adult really like hit me. And that hit me personally. Like I was probably as young as 6 and then 8 and then like 13, 14, it really kind of clamped down. And then to get by in the world, I became very masculine. So I was a doer, an achiever, an action chica. Like, I can do it on my own. I'm an independent woman. I studied women's studies at UBC. Like, I know my mind. And all of my relationships have failed because I would act out in ways that were actually more male in our culture, as far as like I had a cycle of cheating on a partner. And it was toxic. Like, I gotta say, that's part of the reason I am the person that I am, and I have the kind of non-judginess and compassion, is that I upheld myself to like certain standard through school, through life. And then I had this massive cycle of drugs and alcohol, promiscuity and cheating, and like I truly hated myself and life. And like I kept acting out in these horrible ways that I was like never imagined I would do. And I had rape experiences, I had abortion, not knowing who the father was, and like, that was the like, once, possibly a little teary, but once that happened, that was the cutoff point for me. That was when I was just like, I am a disaster. My life is a disaster, and I have to change because everyone else around me is great and wonderful and lovely, and I'm not. And it was one of those just like hands in the air on my knees, like, show me what to do, because I'm a big fat fuck up and I hate myself and I hate life, and yet I'm destroying myself and good people around me, and that's not how I expected my life to turn out. And that's really what set me on that yoga journey, and set me on this deepening and deepening of this healing journey, right? So that I can stand on my 2 feet in my integrity, forgive myself for all of that shit, and forgive all of us for all of our shit, and say, okay, today is going to be a better day. And it's literally been that kind of process, just keep going day in, day out. And that's why I talk about in the book. And some of you guys know that when I was in Bali 2 years ago writing this book, it just was that. At the end of each lesson, at the end of each step, it was just keep going. You are loved. Keep loving. Just keep at it. And 10 years later, 5 years later, 2 years later, 6 months later, you can be a radically different person. And I can honestly say I'm a radically different person from when I was even 6 months ago, even 3 months ago. And so life accelerates, and you build momentum in this sort of creatorship status. You absolutely do. But for you to really love all that you are is it's really all there is for us to find the love and find the connection, find that divine spark that alives us. It's that divinity within us that really allows us to come alive. And ultimately, it's the divinity and that divine spark inside our own hearts, which is the balanced state of being. It's the divinity which reminds us that our femininity is not something to be feared. And it's something that I would say, certainly for some of us, there is a historical context. So there's actual karmic imprint on us, a very deep fear about us being the feminine because we were killed. So a lot of us actually have past life karmic imprint from being witches and being put on trial and murdered, possibly a few lifetimes of torture and murder for being more balanced or more radiant human beings in a time of darkness, right? And so for a lot of us, we're shedding the weight of those patterns. We're shedding the imprint of those patterns because we're like looking around at the reality being like, okay, I think it's safe. I think it's safe for us to tune in again. I think it's safe for us to be the feminine, to embrace the femininity within us. And that love and that nurturing and that self-care and that like softness is in us all. And the beauty is that the more I embrace my femininity, the more imbalance is my masculinity. The more I'm like, I can take action and do things when I'm in the flow and when I'm feeling inspired. And then I can like drop back into rest when I'm starting to feel a little either anxious or seeking or not enough, right? And so if I'm ever feeling in fear or panicked or not enough, I can just go, oh, mama love. Like this mama love inside. Sometimes I joke, but I totally mean it. When I do classes and have sessions with people, I always have a moment of love. Like you hug yourself, you love yourself like a mother would love a child, like the most unconditional loving mother. We just go to these bodies because the body really is the vessel. And if I'm not embodied, where the fuck am I? Out there in the ether somewhere, which doesn't make all this higher wisdom very practical in our bodies. So I could talk about femininity all I like, but if I'm not actually taking time to ground, allow, love myself, take space for myself, then ultimately a lot of our relationships are probably out of balance. A lot of our relationships might be codependent relationships because we're still kind of like hooking into other humans to try to fulfill the self. And yet the more I do this whole self-fulfillment stuff, this like inner work stuff, then there's less like attachment, less grasping, less desperation, and a lot more just genuine ease and flow with people. And I've had a real shift, like even in the last 24 hours regarding relationship and partnership and romance and stuff. So it's kind of crazy because like it's almost like this lifelong program is suddenly gone. And now I'm looking around at everything being like, oh my God, weird. Why did I always do that? But then I'm really happy to have that acknowledgement or to have that revelation. And now I'm like, oh, now what? Literally just like looking at you guys, I could see someone's here that I was just like basically being a joke to myself. Anyway, you guys, I hope that that was useful to you. And I want to permission you, boys and girls, embrace your femininity. Embrace your just like softness and your loveness and like feeling, being, that is doing as well. You know, that's what we get like, how do you do femininity? Well, just be with it, be and feel. And that's what, and again, that's the kind of mass denial and this idea of an imbalanced patriarchy is just the fact that in us beings, we're all like dominant masculine energy, denying our feminine for whatever reason. And then all this craziness, right? Like, action! And like we've denied the feeling. So now we're all, boys and girls alike, we're all tuning into our feminine more. Embracing that femininity to become more whole vessels, whole containers, so that just literally so that we can shine more and be happier in these bodies and be kinder to one another and pioneer new systems in a new world and eventually just like be a little bit higher vibrational civilization that it doesn't just fucking perpetuate war continuously and rape the planet and raping her resources, whatever. We like actually live more cyclically and more in harmony with this earth and with this realm. Like Avatar. I see you guys. I see you. And I know you see me too. Love you guys. I do hope that was somehow useful and or entertaining or any of that juicy jazz, but I love you and I want you to know that you're accepted and loved completely 100% as you are, and that if you're ever feeling a little just drop back. Remember, you have a mother inside and it's your feminine side. And I have to remind myself too, because sometimes my masculine energy is like, what the fuck is happening? I must dominate to try to get shit done. And then I'm like, girlfriend, don't forget. Or honey, don't forget. You got this other team player inside yourself. And it's the polarity of that energy that can just go, hey, chill, contain, be efficient. So that when you do need that energy, you're efficient and you got it done. Love you guys. Have a great day. Peace out.